Hi there. Does this sound familiar? You're waiting to hear your number called over the loudspeaker, and you know you had a decent round, but you just aren't too sure why you didn't place. Today, you're going to learn the secrets of winning in the show ring. So let's get started. Hi there, everybody. I feel your pain, and other people have come to me and have felt the same way, asking me, why, Laura, why did I not place? Do you ever get that, Patricia?
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Or saying the judge doesn't like my horse because it's chestnut, or the judge doesn't like mares, or the judge is only placing grays. And I'm here to tell you that's not true. Join me and our guest, Patricia Jellerson, as we share some insider tips for your next horse show. And we've got a hot seat contender. Somebody sent in a video, and we're going to give them some tips. That breaks me up every time I see it.
Me too. Me too.
Hi there, and thank you for being with us today. My name's Laura Kelland-May, and welcome to Equestrian Skill Builders, where we help you build confidence in competition, in your riding, and in your horse. Understand what the judge is looking for and win more ribbons at your next horse show.
Mm-hmm.
With me today is fellow judge Patricia Jellerson. Hi, Patricia. How are you?
Good, thank you. Good, thank you.
Patricia is a USEF Large R judge and is a regular on the Equestrian Skill Builders broadcast, providing welcome feedback and exercises to improve the horse and rider. So last week, were you at a horse show? No, you were at a horse show a couple weeks ago, and next week you're going out to a horse show. Is that right?
I'm actually stewarding the next couple of weeks at a NCEA event.
And what's that for people who don't know?
It's a collegiate team event, but it's a little different. There's the IHSA, which is where everyone competes in groups of levels, and here the NCA, they all have to be at the same level, which they should be jumping around 3 foot, and they compete over fences, and then they do a dressage test that they're judged on their horsemanship about not so much the dressage, but their horsemanship.
Excellent.
Mm-hmm. It's a good program. Yes, it is.
Right. And I'm Laura Kelland-May. I empower riders to go from no direction to feeling confident, in control, and in harmony with their horses so they can win more ribbons. Competition coach, specialist, high performance trained, Equestrian Canada, senior judge and steward. And as a live producer, I can also help you create successful weekly broadcasts. Excellent.
Nice.
Yeah, I like that one too. So we're live, and if you have any questions or comments or like to see something in particular or have comments on our content that we're sharing here today, great. Put in the comments. We'd love to know if you are watching live or watching the recording. Please tell us where you're coming in from, because where are you coming in from, Patricia?
I'm coming in from Edmond, Oklahoma.
So we got Oklahoma, and I'm from Ottawa, Ontario, Canada, where it's currently snowing. And we'd love to know where you are coming in from. And if you have any comments or questions, we'd love to hear from you as well. All right. So number one, what the judge is looking for. Now, Patricia, we were thinking we'd talk about pace and control. And as far as pace goes, when you're judging, what is the judge looking for? And for me, I think this is the number one thing that could get you a ribbon at a horse show, is if you have the proper pace.
Consistent pace too.
Yep.
Proper and consistent.
Yeah. So let's dissect that and unpack it. And what does that mean?
Well, I think the pace is the momentum and the impulsion that you're carrying, the speed a little bit. And it varies according to horses. Like a lot of times in the hunters, people will say, oh, that horse is going so slow, but it could be a horse that has such a big stride that that's what they have to do to make the lines fit. Whereas a horse that's got a little shorter stride might have to carry a little more pace. So it kind of depends on the rider. That's why I like to say the consistency of the pace, because it depends, I mean, on the horse, but you're always looking for consistency.
Right. So
What about you? What do you look for?
Oh, well, that's exactly the same thing. I think that when you are, particularly when you're on the judge's box, that I think that a horse with a decent jump and a consistent place can often outperform and outplace a horse with a spectacular jump. We've seen them, janking up those knees, but goes fast down one line or slow or has off the pace some places or slows down or zooms down the line. So those types of horses, although, we all get trained as judges that the horse with the best jump should win the class, right?
Mm-hmm.
But if the whole package isn't there, then for me, it's the pace. So they should start the course with the same pace that they're going to end the course with.
Exactly.
So if oftentimes horses and riders kind of lose the class on the first jump because they don't use the ring properly, right? They don't develop that canter correctly.
I would say people tend to be more conservative than they need to be at that first fence.
And then as they go around the course, what happens to the canter?
Starts to build.
Yeah, it starts to build, and then
course you have a completely different canter than from you started the course.
Exactly. So you're just going, oh, something changed. I don't know what it is. You just think, okay, something's changed. But if you're watching and you think, oh, and you're going 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, jump, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, jump, 1, 2, 3. You're going around. You go, wow, that's really nice. It's not a spectacular wow factor jumper, with the knees janked up or really cute with its front end or whatever it is, but it's got that even pace and a decent jumper. That's the thing that's going to really win the course. Now, if you have both, then that's
what you're looking for, ideal. But
that's the wow
I agree
factor.
with you entirely that to me, a horse that's a spectacular jumper can be beat by a horse that's a little more average but carries a great pace when the spectacular horse is a little inconsistent. I mean, we do want to reward quality, absolutely, but that's not to say that there's going to be some mistakes in the spectacular horse's course, and they just might not be the winner that day.
Yeah. And it's not because we as judges, we don't dislike your horse. The judge doesn't like me. I've heard that a lot. You go to the bathroom and there's people, oh, my judge doesn't like my horse. Of course I do. Right. And right. It's not that it's a chestnut. Oh, the whole judge doesn't like chestnuts. Well, maybe they don't like the footing or my horse doesn't have any white, so it's not winning. Oh, that's not true.
Right.
I'm here to tell you that's not true.
And it's really hard. It's really hard because you make those assumptions. I mean, we all do. It's so important to us when we're showing and competing. But unless you have a chance to watch the whole class, it's very hard to know where you belong in the class.
Right. Yeah. It's not because you're riding a chestnut that doesn't have any white socks or a blaze.
Right.
Yeah. And here's I read this. There's only one thing that you need to do to be a winner in the class. What's that? What's that? You have to be better than everybody else. Right? It's
That's right.
So let's unpack some strategies to get that even pace. So if you're in the ring, what are some things? So you're the judge, and a horse comes in. What is some things that people can do to get that done?
Well, I think you have to know your horse and know how you want to approach your first jump. Unless there's a dotted line, which means you have to go directly to the first jump, you have some options. You can make a smaller circle, or you can use half the ring. You can
Okay,
even
so
get away
just
with
hang
one.
on there, Patricia. You mentioned something for I want to go in. I'm going to share a screen and I'm going to do my magic pan on it. Okay,
Uh,
about the dotted line. Okay, so we're
mhm,
going to go here. I'm going to go on my thing. I'm going to do my dotted line, my jumps. Okay, so this is, let's say this is the jump course. Just like it, we're just going to make it simple, just like
mhm.
an easy course. Okay, so what's a dotted line mean? That's a great idea. I mean, a lot they don't usually do them anymore. Maybe in an equitation they might, but
Sometimes I think they do them in some of the shows that I judge if it's a really big show and they want to eliminate a long warm up time coming to your first fence. They'll draw a dotted line, and that means that you can't cross that dotted line on your way to the first fence. So you have
okay.
to make a
So this, let's
smaller circle.
say
Yeah.
this is in gate, in out gate.
Mhm.
So if you're coming in, you
Usually it's
cross
a bit closer though. Usually it's the dotted line to me would be right after that first set of jumps
these
when
guys,
you're doing. Yeah.
those ones.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's been okay. Well, I'm just going to do this because I can't get my thing to go. So that means that you cannot cross back and do a circle and then go again like this,
Mhm.
right?
Right.
So you once you've crossed that dotted line, you cannot do a circle and approach your first jump. That would be counted as a disobedience or run out or refusal.
Right.
So you have all this time here to get and establish your pace,
Mhm.
right?
Right. And I guess you're heading towards the first fence there?
This would be the first fence here.
Yes. Okay. I see what you're saying. Yep. Yeah, and you have to look for that if you're on your own and you don't have a trainer to help you. A lot of times they'll announce it too that a dotted line is now in effect.
I think they
So,
also do that sometimes in the equitation classes. So with okay, let's do that again. And if this is the in gate here down to the bottom right,
mhm.
and this is fence one
Uh-huh.
going this direction.
Uh-huh.
So if the dotted line is here,
No, I put it behind the
like
yeah, you
here.
could have it either behind or in front, yeah,
So this is
either
the
way.
dotted line. It'll show as a dotted line. If you come in, if you come in, you cannot go beyond that dotted line.
Mhm.
You'd
Mhm.
have to go something like this to
Exactly,
approach
yeah.
your first jump. So this is all the time that you have to
But
approach your first fence.
but look at that same diagram without the dotted line. I mean, you could go around the whole ring, you could go half the ring, you could go 3/4 of the ring to get to your first jump, and I
Yeah,
think that's when you have to know your horse and know what best will help your horse develop the pace to your first jump.
gotcha. Yeah, exactly. Okay, now I can't get rid of this thing. There we go. Exactly.
I
So
think, if you're on a very lazy horse where you're scared they're going to run out of steam, you don't want to take a huge, long approach to your first jump. But for everyone else, I think the more time you give yourself, the better opportunity you have to develop that correct pace.
so if this is your first jump here going in this direction,
Hmm.
okay, and this is an in out gate, which is sometimes you get this in a handy hunter course where it's right off the in gate.
Hmm.
So you don't have a much much time to get to that first fence, and you have to establish your pace really, really quickly. But this is the time that you have to establish your pace. And remember that you want to have the pace that you start with the same as the pace that you finish with.
Right.
Right.
Right. Which is why at home, you should practice all sorts of approaches to your, get yourself a first fence, practice all sorts of approaches. Practice having to canter directly to that first fence, where if you're doing a handy hunter or an equitation course, and if you're doing a hunter course, see if it works better to do a smaller circle to your first jump, or do half the ring, or the whole. That's something you have to kind of work out at home, I think, and not wait until you get to the horse show to
not figuring it out in the warm up before you go into the ring.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
So so strategies to get that done. So the getting that done is okay. So let's put our jumps back in here again. All right. So this is your first fence. Usually it's towards home. Let's just, for example, this is the first fence. This is our in-out gate, let's say. I mean, this is purely hypothetical. First fence, you have all this time.
We're not seeing your diagram, by the way.
Oh.
I don't know if you meant to show it to us, but we're not seeing it.
Oh, of course, I had all these beautiful things drawn on it.
Okay. There we go.
Yeah, so this is the in-out gate here.
Mm-hmm.
You have all this time, this long side, and the turn to get ready for your first jump. And this, particularly if the judge is over here in the judge's box, the judge will be able to see you, but you have a long side and a turn to establish your pace and your rhythm for that first fence.
Right.
And the first fence is part of your course. And a lot of times I've found that people don't use this time here going along to establish their pace. They kind of get around the corner and then use the last 4 strides to get the pace.
Absolutely.
You've seen that too?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And spending too much time trotting. I mean, trotting is fine, especially if your horse has a lovely trot. But if you only have a certain amount of time to get to that first fence, I would think you need to get that canter fairly quickly so you have time to develop it.
Yeah. Develop
Do
it.
me a favor, let's put the in gate on the other side for a minute. And
okay, I get it.
Let me mention something here.
Okay, so here, in gates here.
In gates up by your Be Extraordinary banner.
Oh, up here.
Yes.
Okay.
So there you could go in the ring and you have the same first fence. Say you have the same
this
first
one here?
No, the diagonal or the coming this middle fence. You had a fence in the center as your first fence.
Oh, okay, right. Yeah. This is one.
So that's one. So you could go walk in the ring and turn left, go all the way around to the first fence. A lot of times what people do too that is very nice is you'll go across the diagonal.
Yep.
You'll go across the diagonal and then pick up your canter to the first jump. A lot of times that presents a very nice picture, and you save the judge a little bit of time if you go across the diagonal like that.
Yeah, the other thing that's important for too, Patricia, right, is that if, for example, if the judge is here, then coming across on this side, the judge can see you really nicely. But if the judge is on down here, on this side down here, then they really can't see you. But if you come across the diagonal, then they can see you a little bit better, or, even come across like that.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome. Mm-hmm. So maintaining that beautiful pace is really fundamental for that, and getting into the ring properly and using your space is really important.
Mm-hmm. It is.
Now, I'd like to remind people to ask questions and comments if you have any tips that you'd like to give us, or if this has happened to you, then please let us know. We'd love to hear from you.
Do you
This
have
is
any
our,
particular strategies for getting that pace that work well for you? Share it with us.
yeah. So if during the live broadcast this morning, we encourage you to make comments or questions and we'll answer them the best we can.
So, yeah. And so, did we want to talk a little bit about the warm up? You mentioned that, or
Oh,
you
right.
wanted
Warm up.
to
Okay. So let's talk about the warm up. So the warm up is really important for you, and to get all the right boxes checked off before you head into that ring. And there's some things that you should be including in your warm up so that your round under the competition is really good. So, what kind of things do you include in your warm up, Patricia?
Well, I think it's important to me. I like to separate my flat work and when I jump. Usually, if you have a chance to school in the ring, which you don't often get at A shows the day of the show, but you will a lot at schooling shows or local shows. It's usually a madhouse, as you know. So to
Yeah.
expect to go in there and do walk, trot, canter, warm up, jump every jump that you need to take from the approach that you have to take it in your class is very difficult. So I
Now
like
you're
to,
talking as a coach now. You're not talking as a
oh,
judge. You're talking
as
as
a
a
judge.
coach.
Well, I mean, I don't judge the warm up, but
Right.
I think that it's important in the warm up to get over most of the jumps that you can. But if you're just talking about right before you go in the ring, I think that you've got to warm up at the pace that your horse is the least um, proficient at. You know, if your horse has a weak canter and you're worried about holding the pace, then practice that in your warm up area. If you're not concerned about the canter as much and your horse has a lovely trot and you want to show off that trot a little, then practice your trot a bit. I would say warm up where your horse is weakest.
Yeah. So exactly right. So when you're in the warm up and you know your horse has a good canter or a good trot, then use that time wisely to establish and improve the gait or the area that you need to do. Right.
Mhm.
Exactly. I understand exactly what you're saying.
And the warm up ring is only going to have a few jumps in it, so you have to kind of recreate what's going on in that class in your single jump. If your horse is a little short strided and you have to move forward for the lines, you certainly don't want to crawl to anything in your warm up time, and before you enter the ring, and vice versa. If your horse gets a little keen, then you want your warm up to be very relaxed and quiet. So it's very important. What about you? What tips do you have for the warm up area?
So the warm up area, one, you have to be safe. Like you say, there's a lot of people in that warm up, and everybody seems to be vying for the jump to get it done. So even before the warm up, make sure you have your homework done at home, and the show is just the warm up. Pardon me, because this isn't the time where you school your horse. It's time just to warm up, get your horse going, and get into the ring. You should have done everything at home during your schooling time at home and your training time at home, right?
Right.
It's not some time to introduce something new. It's something just to say, okay, I got to do a warm up and then go in the ring and show everybody what I've got because I'm the best and my horse is the best and he's warmed up. It's not time to introduce flying lead changes or slicing the jumps or
Right.
stride control, all those types of things going into the warm up area. That's not the time to introduce those things. That's stuff you should be doing at home. The warm up for me, go in, walk, trot, canter each way, do a couple of jumps, and save your horse for the show ring, as opposed to
Absolutely.
you know.
Absolutely. And a lot of shows will have a warm-up class.
Right.
And, that depends on the horse and rider too. Again, if you have a lazy horse that you think is pretty brave, you might want to skip the warm-up class and save your horse. If you have a horse that tends to peak a little, you probably want to do that warm-up class and give them a chance to see all the jumps. There's a lot of strategy involved, which is why it's good to have a ground person and someone to help you. But of course, we can't all have that, so we try to give you guys some advice that might be helpful if you're on your own.
Yeah. Excellent. Excellent work. So what are some things, specific exercises that you do in your warm up, Patricia? When
I generally,
when you take your students to a horse show, that's
mhm.
like one exercise that you do for your horse.
I a lot of times will if to help set up the lead change, or if I have a horse that will get a little quick in the corners, I like to canter the jump and then just do a nice halt afterwards, not a kill them halt, but just a nice quiet halt, and then canter away, do another jump. If your horse is anticipating, do a little halt in front of the jump. So I like to use my halts in the warm up ring to get the horse listening and paying attention.
Yeah, that's good exercise. One exercise I like to do is trot into a fence. This I
Mhm.
use particularly before the equitation class. Equitation class often have a trot fence in it, right?
And
So
then
you
hand start.
cantering, do the transitions, warm up over canter, trot, transition, and trot into that fence. Just as a little reminder, tweak again. Make sure that you do these exercises at home, so that when you get to the show warm up ring, that they are solid. You just kind of put that into your horse's brain, into your rider's brain. We're going to be doing some transitions in this class, so keep everything alive and well that way. Awesome. Okay, so we move on. Moving on.
Yes, do you want to look at the video?
Yeah, just a second. Here we go. All right. This segment is brought to you. This hot seat segment is brought to you by Equestrian Skill Builders. Be a thinking rider. Progress faster, ride effectively, and be extraordinary. Now, I just designed this mini course called Ride in Harmony. You can say goodbye to bad rides, and being understood by your horse just got easier. So find out how to get this mini course. I'll put there it is right there, bit.ly horse IQ. Just sign into that. It's about 10-minute course that you can get and understand your horse a little bit better. So let's go on to the hot seat. Okay, so we do have a video. Somebody sent in a video. I'm so excited about this. So this is from Sarah, who says, I was wondering if you do a position review of the horse for a video of me trotting my horse. He's a 6-year-old Dutch warm blood, and we'll be doing the hunters together. So I'm going to show that video right now. And I'm just going to let it play here once I show it. And we're going to show it right here. There we go. So next time, if you do happen to send in a video, try to hold it in landscape mode as opposed to portrait mode, only because, so that means, where's my camera? When you do video, hold it this way as opposed to this way. This way's bad. It gets very tiny. This way's good.
Cute horse.
So this is Sarah on her horse, a 6-year-old Dutch warm blood, and she sent it in. Yeah, she sent it in to have comments and review of her position and also of her horse. The people watching, if you have comments or questions about this, great. Again, if you send in a video, try to get a little closer, only because when she's far away, it's difficult to see what's happening.
And may I make a suggestion too? Wear
Sure.
light colored breeches, because as you can see from this picture, if you have on dark breeches, it's very hard to see against the saddle
Yeah.
unless you're super close.
And
So if you want to really good position,
I mean,
I
yeah.
wear light breeches.
I mean, how are we supposed to comment on this person's position here?
Yeah.
I can see, I mean, I'm looking at my screen and I can kind of see it a little bit better because
Mhm.
I'm looking at my screen. No, that's not working. But yeah, okay. So Patricia, would you
Comment?
like to comment first? I mean, or how would you want to do this? Okay.
Well, it looks like a very pleasant horse, going around doing its job, not distracted or looking around. I like that the pace is pretty consistent. The horse is coming up a little bit out of the bridle and then down, and sometimes it's a little overflex. I think that can be cured by just a little more pace. To me, this horse seems a little under the pace.
Yeah. I think my first initial reaction was forward. Go forward. Sarah, get your leg on and go forward.
Yeah.
That's what I was thinking when I was watching it. No, get your leg on, go forward, forward,
Yeah,
forward. I mean,
especially if
what
you're doing the hunters, you need to have a little bit less control and a little more showing off the horse's natural gaits, I think.
yeah, so that's what I have here. I've forward exclamation mark.
Mm,
Yeah, so that's the first thing I would say is go forward.
mm,
Is get your legs on, push the horse forward. As a judges want to see a horse moving forward and very least tracking up. And I'm not sure that this horse is really tracking up. They want to see the horse covering ground, a nice ground covering forward trot. I understand that you say you're working on contact. Great. But the contact, you have to remember, has to come from the hindquarters of the horse and move up to the front end of the horse. And what I think is happening in this picture is that Sarah, the rider, has her hands set on the horse's, on the withers and on her thighs almost, and into her stomach quite a bit, and not pushing the horse forward. Rather, the horse is coming from the bit backwards instead of from
mm.
the leg forward.
Very true. Yeah.
Yeah, so you can see that. And exactly like you said, Patricia, the result is he gets below the bit or behind the bit. And then at times he gets up and above the bit rather than here. So here you can see that. I mean, that looks good. Like you say, he's got a lovely even pace. His tail is kind of swishing back and forth a little bit. So he's relaxed. He just has to be going more forward. And to
Yeah.
me, here, that looks okay, but he needs to be going more forward.
Mm. He's a little overflexed for the hunters, a little
He's
bit.
yeah, behind the bit for sure. I mean, this is kind of a lovely picture where you could see that his nose is behind the vertical
Mm.
and behind the bit. So he needs to be moving forward. I mean, that's a great place to stop it right there. You can see, right?
Right, right. And I think, you've got to mix up your work a little bit. Like this is a great tool you have to school the way she's riding now, but then also do some long and low type work and let the horse stretch his back and stretch out a little bit, and not always so controlled. You want to teach the horse to carry itself, especially a young one. You don't want to always do that for them.
Right. Now, I'm not sure. We don't know that maybe she is doing that. We just don't know. We only got this short video, right?
Right,
But
right.
But yeah, so then he's low, he's low, his neck is curled in, and to me, this is a symptom of not going forward. His
Mhm.
head is down, and there's no tension, but he's not moving forward from his hindquarters. And then he comes along here. He brings his head up. That was through the downward transition. Okay, let's go start again. So here, there, he brings his head up.
Mhm.
And so what should a rider do? A rider should push the horse forward. Keep your hands soft and allow with the hands and push the horse forward so the horse steps up into the contact. But it looks like this rider doesn't do that, but rather kind of fiddles with her hands.
Mhm.
So there he comes up again. There he comes up again. You see that? He's dropping under the forehand above the bit and then back down and low. So he goes in between going above the bit and going behind the bit.
Behind the bit. Yep. Exactly. Yep.
Yeah. Okay, so what can we do to help her with this?
I think it's getting back to the pace, how important the pace is, even at the trot. And I think she just has to think about the horse's motor being the hindquarters. And you don't want them pulling themselves along by the front end, but you want them propelling themselves a little from the hind. So you've got to let go of the front end a little and let the hind end do its job.
Yeah. And keep your legs on.
Yes, use your leg. Yeah. Even a tense horse needs leg. The leg is supporting, and the horses welcome that support and reassurance. I think if you're riding without any leg at all, it's a kind of a scary place for the horse.
Yes, because they're not going forward.
Mm-hmm. And because they have no, you've got this long length of leg kind of hanging down there that's not really doing much. The horse is kind of carrying it along instead of it helping the horse move forward.
Yeah, I'm just looking to see if we can find a hunter under saddle picture that okay, so let's just see if I can get this one here. This is no, that's not it. These are quarter horse hunter under saddles, which is a little bit different than what I want to see. Yeah, okay, that's great. And what about the rider? Okay, so we kind of helped a little bit of the horse. We really liked that the horse was in a rhythm, that the horse was relaxed, and the horse was, as Patricia said, focused on the work. And now, but really needs to be going forward and really needs to be trotting off the rider's leg, moving between the leg and the hand, not the other way, not from the hand back. So let's take a look and focus on the rider now. It's difficult to see. I like where you say, Patricia, if you're going to send in videos, one, make sure it's in landscape mode, not in portrait mode, and also to wear some colors that we can see.
Especially if you're in an indoor. If you're outside, it doesn't matter as much. But
And a little closer if you're a little closer.
Yeah, a little. But even even if you're a little closer, the indoor is harder usually to get that good lighting.
Yeah. Oh, I'm not showing it. I'm watching it, but why weren't saying anything?
I thought, oh, you must think I have a better memory than I do. Well,
Okay,
that's nice that she rewards her horse. I always appreciate that.
Yeah. Okay, here she comes.
I think her hands are a little far back in her lap. I'd like to see her elbow in front of her body a bit more.
Yeah, hands over top of the withers or even front. So if she pushed her hands forward like 3 inches or so, then she could use her legs to push them up into the bit a little bit more, right?
Mm-hmm. Exactly. And I feel like that lower leg really isn't on the horse very much. I feel like her knee is gripping and then the lower leg is somewhat away from the horse. Do you agree?
Yeah, I was thinking that definitely pinching with the knees. And when you pinch with your knees, your lower leg comes away from the horse's side. I noticed that, I think she's got spurs on. That you are right. And this particular moment of this photo right here, or this image right here, the weight is coming into her knee and into her stirrup with her hands, and it's tough. She's got lovely black gloves on, so we like to have her hands out a little bit more forward. The weight coming down, not into her knee, but down into her foot. And if you can see that her stirrup is almost at the girth, or maybe even a little in front of the
Right,
girth,
right.
almost on the elbow of the horse. So that means that she's pinching with her knee and the weight is coming forward, and that's not good.
And a little more, if she's using her leg against the horse a little more, I think she could get a little depth in her heel, which is wouldn't be a bad thing.
Right. And to do that, what has she got to do?
She's got to bring that leg underneath her a little bit,
Yep.
relax the knee and push down toward the stirrup.
Yep, exactly. I just see if I can get a little screenshot of that and see if I can use that.
And you can see too when we talk about the horse not going forward, see how its mouth is open a little bit. It's kind of resisting, the fact that I think that it can't relax and go forward.
Yes. So totally agree with you. He's slightly above the bit, and for me, this is a good place to show that he's not really tracking up. So he's not really placing that hind leg up underneath himself. Let's see.
And this is, like I said, this is a nice horse. I like this horse. I think if it could just get a little more pace, it would be moving good and just look lovely. It just
Yeah, it's a lovely horse. I love it a
yeah,
lot.
it just
Okay.
looks a little constrained there for the hunters, especially.
Okay, I'm going to share my screen again. Share screen. Screen to share. There we go. Let's try this. Okay, so here, this is, okay, why is it not working? This is her angle here at her knee. And, okay, this is her stirrup, right? So we'd like to have her stirrup back by near the girth, back here. And to do that, she needs to open up her hip angle. She needs the hip. This is her knee here. Can you see that?
Yeah.
We want her knee down there with her stirrup here.
Right. Yep, that's very good.
Rather than, so her kneecap is pointing this way. Think of pointing the kneecap more that way. And to do that, you have to draw your thigh down and here. It's hard to draw on this today. And for me, that'll bring the whole leg down and around the horse and the stirrup closer to the girth, with the stirrup leather parallel to the girth, perpendicular to the saddle.
Right, perpendicular to the ground too. I like.
Right, perpendicular to the ground. Yeah, you can see that the weight is coming here, like her foot is flat, and that's the stirrup near in front of the girth. We would like to see the stirrup here.
And I think too, when you're not, like you said, opening a little and then dropping down and dropping that knee a bit, you're kind of floating on top of the saddle instead of being what we call in the tack.
Right. Okay, so while we're here, Patricia, how about her hands?
I like the line from elbow to bit. I think that's pretty correct. I just think that her hands are her arms are too far back. I just would like to see her arm in front of her body a little more. Yes. Like
Not a whole lot though,
not
right?
a lot,
Just
just a little.
like that's the width of her elbow. So, and then her hands, I would like to see her hands here maybe more.
Mm-hmm.
And then you get that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we're not talking a whole lot here.
Mm. No.
But the big thing is the leg has got to come down and around, and she's got to be going forward.
Right. I like the fact that the rider looks relaxed. It doesn't look like she has any tension. I like that very much. And I think this horse is on to a great start for a young horse, but you don't want to get off on the foot of it not going forward. To me, it's easier to teach the young ones to go forward and then adjust the pace rather than starting slow and then asking them to go forward when you need it.
Right. I agree with that too. Yeah. Getting them to go forward first. Excellent. Thank you so much. Was it Sarah? Thank you so much, Sarah, for sending that in. Excellent.
Send us another video a little later on and tell us how that worked for you. Show us how that worked for you if you
ride forward.
Suggestions.
It's kind of like riding a bicycle, right? If you ride a bicycle, you kind of wobble all over the place. I mean, most people have ridden a bicycle, and if you are going at a decent pace, then you can keep that bicycle going more forward or steer it better. And it has to come from, going forward that you can steer and get everything done.
Right. Exactly.
Oh, right. So, have any exercises you'd like to share today, Patricia?
No, I don't really. I just think that when you're working on pace, transitions are very important. That you're able to carry your pace through your downward and upward transitions. So I work on pace, but I also keeping the horse in front of my leg. But I also work on a lot of transitions when I work on pace to keep that momentum going and that push from behind.
And that's a strength thing too, right? It's if they cannot do a proper downward transition, sometimes it's because the horse just plain isn't strong enough.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, very true. Very true. And I think when you're bringing along a young horse, you have to really think about that, about developing their strength. Developing the correct muscle tone and the correct strength by riding them in a positive way, almost like going to the gym. You want to do exercises that are going to build certain muscle groups. One thing you don't want to build is that underside of the neck by them inverting and lifting their heads too much. That's one example of a muscle that you do not want to build, right?
And yeah, exactly. And that is, you see that sometimes when horses who have martingales that are too long or short, too martingales, standing martingales that are too short, they pull against it, or the tie downs that some people use, that develops that underneath thing. So I do have an exercise with respect to pace, and I'm glad you said the transitions because that kind of cues in with that. But here's my exercise. I'm going to show it here on this little thing here. And then as usual, we're running out of time. Oh, share screen, Chrome tab, photos. So this is my blank thing, and I do this. Easy peasy exercise. Two poles on the ground. 55, maybe 57 feet. Easy exercise to establish your pace, establish your rhythm when you are going in your hunter ring. How many strides should you fit in there? If there are 2 poles on the ground, If they were jumps, you do 4 strides, but if they're pulls on the ground, you'd add a stride. So there'd be 5 strides. Easy exercise. Pick up your canter, 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 jump the pole. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Do the pole. Go around. Do it again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Go around. Do it again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Do that 3 times. Each time getting the same number of strides in between there.
And I think that's a great exercise to think about establishing that first fence too, because you want to, to me, it's always better to jump the first fence and then have to steady a little to the second rather than jump the first one slow and have to move forward to the second, which makes the horse jump a little flat and reachy. So you can practice getting a good enough pace to that first fence that you just first pole that you just have to balance a little bit to the second pole and not have to go forward too much.
It's a very telling exercise because exactly right. So you have to know what pace you are at, and it's not figuring out what pace you're at in here. It's figuring out your pace at this part.
Exactly. Yep.
Right. So,
right. And the repetition is a good idea too, because, you could do it once pretty good, but can you do it 3 times in a row?
Exactly. Because if you're going around here, you're jumping 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. By the time, if you think that that's a course, if you think of it as a course of jumps, the third time you get around to it is going to be like the last line of your course of jumps. And if you are jumping and you're going in there, jumping, and you're going 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? You understand what I mean, right? So it's a great exercise to help riders understand what their length of stride is and how to adjust it, and that adjustability, or that you should know here each time you go across, go around this side, this is where you establish your pace right there.
And jump it from both directions, because if your gate is on one end, your horse is going to ride it a little differently going away from the gate as to going toward the gate.
Good point. Also, if they're one-sided.
Right.
Yep. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I mean, and if you don't have the room for that, set up 4 strides, or if you have a bigger space, or if you find that your horse is getting longer in between the jumps, or you can adjust this for whatever you have to do. But that's a really great, simple but demanding exercise that you can use to establish your pace and understand what pace is. And remember, that's the gold standard for you to be able to win a course, win a competition, is to have a steady, even pace throughout the competition, throughout your ride, so that you can wow the judges.
Right.
Excellent. Okay, so if anybody has any questions, we'd love to hear from you, but we're going to wrap it up, and we'll see you next week. Patricia, final words?
Final words, practice at home. Like Laura was saying, when you go to a show, that's not the time to learn new things. It's the time to review what you already know.
Right. Now, go use this stuff and go hug your horse.
Thanks
you,
Laura.
Okay, thank
Bye,
you,
everybody.
Patricia. Bye. See you next week. Bye.